Okay, so landing is a big deal. I think my 2-year-old nephew knows that. He's really cute. It's the start of the game, and depending on your landing, it can decide the course that the rest of the game is going to take. It's like a butterfly effect, where one thing can just lead to a chain of events that affects the entire game. Who knows? Obviously, we can't go over the best place to deploy in every game, but there are some things that you can do which will result in better drops every single time. So we're not going to be giving you specific spots to land because that depends on your preference and, what's worked for you. Certain places, work better for certain people. Although in general, landing somewhere else less crowded is ideal, but that's pretty tough to do when everyone's just trying to do that. Frankly, the drop is a lot of RNG, and handling that is part of being a really good player. So the ideal place to land is on a chest on top of a roof. That'll give you an excellent high ground starting position, right? And a solid vantage point on any enemies that are still dropping or in the open. Of course, chests don't spawn every single time, so it's a really high-risk, high-reward play, which isn't reliable enough. To get the best drop possible, you should turn on visual cues, which makes it a lot easier to see if there are any chests. With that on, or if you have a loud enough volume, you can just eventually see the chest before you drop. When there isn't a chest, then you could just fly away and go somewhere else. That's really the best way. But where should you drop in the first place? Good question. Well, in general, landing on the edges of the point of interest is safer than the center because there are fewer places to get targeted. You can also build faster if you're getting targeted from multiple angles. Honestly, so many people die in the early game because now it's like, where do I go after the first game? Well, that's what we're going to be getting into next, rotations. A lot of people are just clueless when it comes to rotations. They think that you should just move indirectly to where the safe zone is. Well, that's definitely not true. Rotations are so important. Watch any pro, and you're going to probably realize that they're not just going places randomly. Each one of their rotations is planned out. Trust me, it just isn't apparent to most people. So, there are different rotations depending on what type of game you're going for, but this game is going to be focusing on arena and scrim type games. In a solo squads game, for example, you would never want to push with the zone. You'd be rotating towards wherever the people are. So keep in mind the purpose of this tutorial. You're going to want to base your rotations off where you are and how many people you expect to encounter and what the zone is. Okay, so let's just say you drop in Westworld, right? And the zone is centered around Loot Lake. Now, the rotations in the early game aren't quite as vital as they're in mid or late game because you can always just change your positioning, but they still require some excellent decision making. In general, if you're in the zone, you don't want to just move anywhere else. As long as you have a lot of mats, then you should just box up until the next zone comes in. Usually, moving early will only lead you to getting third party. So find the right spot to turtle up, preferably somewhere on high ground, and just chill there. So if you're on low ground, you'll probably end up being the target of multiple people. During mid game, it gets a little more complicated. Ideally, you have enough mobility to push late, but if not, then it's a good idea to just leave early. Especially during mid game, there are lots of people around the border of the zone, which means there are lots of people to surround and kill you. Instead, hey, get the jump on them, and you can catch them off guard from inside the zone. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, you should leave about 45 seconds before the zone will push you in. That's going to give you enough time to take a fight on the way and turtle up in a good spot. Alright, so as far as late game goes, these are probably the hardest rotations. Considering how much is going on, it can really just be tough just to go the way you want to go. That makes it pretty hard to just give consistent advice, so take this, guys, with a grain of salt. But usually, you want to rotate early. Everyone wants to rotate at the end, so unless you're going for a high kill game, then you're going to want to go as soon as you can. Yes, people might not be behind as much, but it's actually better most of the time. It'll be so much less hectic and more comfortable to just get where you want to go, and there will be fewer people contesting one spot. Alright, so take this scenario. It's late game, right? And you see a mountain that hasn't yet been exposed by the zone. So, what do you do now? Well, what you should do is get as close as possible, even before the mountain comes into the zone. That way, you're going to have the earliest direction onto height. Alright, so let's see how Salage handles it here. We're going to play the entire clip and then go over it.
Now, can I do this? Can I do that? And getting a good read on what's going on in the match is what is very important to me and will help me judge what I want to do. For example, I take height here because I didn't see anybody else up on height that was close to me. And I have an RPG, so if I have to, I can take down some builds, but I don't really have to for the most part.
Alright, so see how that entire area is open for the taking? Wow, that's exactly what you want. Watch how he actually gets to that area. By using this type of tunnel, and since everyone is so busy rotating, he has time to take the high ground. That puts him in a place where the people are, and so he doesn't have to use any mats. Those are the kind of minor things, guys, that pros are doing and just simply we're not. As soon as he gets to that spot, he starts to assess the situation. Since he left early, everyone else is busy rotating while he has time to do a few 90s to get to height. That puts him in a better spot for the rest of the game, which he actually holds into the end. So if you're lost right now and you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm never going to be able to make these decisions in game. Hey guys, look, this just comes down to how good your game sense is. So cheer up and be encouraged, you can do it.